Grab the duct tape and mentally prepare yourself for yet another mind-expanding knowledge bomb from America's #1 business coach, Clay Clark.
That's it. Bombs away.
Yes, 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 and yes. Jason, typically when we do a knowledge bomb episode of the Thrive Time Show, it is short, it is pithy, and it gets to the point. However, this knowledge bomb is going to take us about an hour to get through. And most of that hour will be spent with our listeners judging you as you read a book to them that was published way back in the day. This book came out and it's hot. It's a new book. It came out in June of 1889.
Ooh.
New book.
Brand new.
June of 1889, and it was written by a man who at the time was the world's wealthiest man for a while. And then at the time of his death, he was the world's second wealthiest man. His name was Andrew Carnegie. Somebody should write that down. It's Andrew Carnegie. Write that down. Andrew Carnegie. Now, Andrew Carnegie, if he was, in fact, the world's wealthiest man and or the world's second wealthiest man, I think it would make sense for us to maybe ponder and say, who is this guy? And why would he put out this book? Of any book he could have written, apparently it was pretty important. I mean, apparently it's pretty important, or he felt it was important. If he's going to write a book, of all the things he could have written about, he wrote this book, and he released it in June of 1889. Now, let me give you some fun factoids about Andrew Carnegie. 1, he is the homeboy. He is the man. He is our brother from another mother who essentially brought you and I the library.
Oh.
So if you're out there going to a library, you're familiar with libraries, perhaps you should know that Andrew Carnegie is the man you should thank for this. 2, in 1901, he sold his company, Carnegie Steel, to J.P. Morgan for $480 million. And you might say, woo, $480 million, that seems like a lot of money. I mean, in today's money, $480 million is a lot of money. In today's money. If you sold a business today for $480 million, we all would say, way to go! Way to go, Andrew! Yeah! However, if you adjust what he sold the company for back in 1901 with inflation, if you said, how much is $480 million, if it was $480 million in 1901, how much would it be worth today? So again, there's inflation, the cost of, over time, money's devalued due to governments printing more money than we have, et cetera, et cetera. They're spending more money than we're bringing in, so we print more money, thus devaluing the money. How much do you think $480 million, Jason, in today's money would be worth? Because in 1901, it was he sold his company, Carnegie Steel, for $480 million. How much do you think that would be today?
I got to say in the billions.
Oh, yeah, what do you think?
Hard number? Let's go Tillman Fertitta and say 4.6.
$13.234 billion.
In my face.
So $13 billion as of in today's money.
That's a lot.
Now, when he started working when he full-time, 12 hours per day to help his mom and dad make ends meet, because his mom and dad were immigrants, and they didn't have any money, and they needed their young son at the age of 13 to drop out of school to start working with them. So his dad worked in a factory, and at the age of 13, he started working with his dad in the factory to make ends meet as a bobbin boy. That was the title, bobbin boy. How much money do you think he made per week adjusted for inflation? So today's money, how much money do you think he made per week as a bobbin boy, Jason?
One, I have no idea what a bobbin boy is, but it sounds interesting. Per week, I'd say, and you said today's?
In today's money, yeah, today's money. Take a guess. This is an opportunity to earn 2,000 mega points.
Well, I know that they were pretty chintzy back in the day, so I'm going to say $30 a week.
Impressive. He made $36.16.
Closest without going over.
Unbelievable. He brought in $36.16 per week as a bobbin boy. Now, man, I can't believe that you don't know what a bobbin boy is. I mean, how many times I can't tell you how many times I've applied for a job as a bobbin boy. A bobbin boy was a boy who worked in a textile mill in the 18th and 19th centuries. They would bring bobbins Whoa.
Okay, so bobbins are a
to
thing.
the women at the looms when they called for them and collected the full bobbins of spun cotton and wool thread. Do you know what a bobbin is?
No.
A bobbin is a cylinder or cone holding thread, yarn, or wire, and used especially in weaving, machine weaving, and lace making. I get a mega point.
So then just say cylinder or cone. Don't try to make it a fancy thing.
So let's call it a cylinder or cone holding thread, yarn, wire boy.
Young Andrew Carnegie, the cylinder boy.
Okay, so now we're going to read his book, The Gospel of Wealth. But before we do that, I have 5 notable quotables I'd like to read from the late, great Andrew Carnegie. So I'm going to read the notable quotable, and I'd like for you, Jason, to try to break down what it means.
All right.
So notable quotable number 1 from Andrew Carnegie. He said, if you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. What does that mean?
I think it means make an actual, measurable, attainable goal. Most people have that like ethereal feeling like, oh, it would just be so great if I were to do this. Or like the whole trivial, I want to lose 5 pounds by summer. But if you just have that thought, it's not going to get you anywhere. But then if you set like an actual measurable goal, not only are you working towards it, but it's thought-provoking. You have to strategize about it. You have to measure your success in order to be able to get there.
I think you are 3/4 of the way there. I just want to pile on that final quarter.
Let's do it.
He says, if you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hope. I agree with that. You set that goal. Mm-hmm. But he's also talking about how complacency is why people get depressed.
True.
So it's interesting. I've met a lot of very successful entrepreneurs who've been clients of mine or who are clients of mine or who I've met at conferences. And they work super hard to build a business and they sell it for millions of dollars. And you know what their overall feeling is after they go on that big vacation or after they sell that company and do nothing for a month or a week? Or whenever somebody just relaxes for 1 week, they sit on a beach for 1 week, or they sell the company and they don't work for a year. Do you know what that feeling is that they always have after vacationing for an extended period of time?
I would assume it's the, what now?
They're almost always depressed.
Yeah.
And it's because you get when you complete something, you get a reward called confidence. Mm. So that's why when you do nothing, you get depressed.
Right.
So interesting. People always want to retire, and then when they get retire, they're bored and they feel lonely. Mm-hmm. So he's talking about, hey, you got to set a goal that commands your energy, that makes you move, that makes you take action steps. But if you ever just sit back and sip Mai Tais while reading through People magazines for 2 consecutive weeks as you lay on the beach, you're going to get depressed. Then the next notable quotable he says is, do your duty and a little more, and the future will take care of itself. Again, he says, do your duty and a little more, and the future will take care of itself. Jason, why were we serving free hamburgers to the members of the Elephant in the Room yesterday? When I say we, I mean you. Why were we grilling hamburgers for the members of the Elephant in the Room men's grooming lounge yesterday?
Well, one, we want to make them feel appreciated for coming in, month out. We love those guys.
They're great guys.
Yeah, and then at the same time, it's like the same reason that we upgraded from our regular janky mints to our Andy's mints, is we want to do that one little extra thing that's going to over-deliver. That way, they are happy every single time.
Exactly right. By the way, you get 7,206 mega points. Oh, no, sorry, my bad. It's 18,207.
Oh,
if you're scoring at home. So I want to make sure we're getting this, though. If you do more than you're paid to do, eventually you will be overpaid.
Right.
If you do more than you're supposed to do, eventually you will be overpaid. If you over-deliver, if you exceed the expectations of others, you will win. If you do just enough or not enough, you will lose. You have to over-deliver and exceed the expectations of the people that you work with. If you over-deliver, if you exceed the expectations of the customer, of your boss, you will eventually be promoted, you will be tipped, good things will happen. Now, if you do less than you're supposed to do or just enough, great things do not happen. Andrew Carnegie writes, do your duty and a little more, and the labor will take care, and the future will take care of itself. Again, do your duty and a little more, and the future will take care of itself. The next notable quotable from Andrew Carnegie is this just in from our home office, it was from my early experience that I decided there was no use to which money could be applied so productive as the founding of the public library. because he grew up in a time when having access to books was like very, very prized.
Yeah, where do you get books in that time?
What he did is he worked for this guy. Again, he's 12 years old, 13 years old. He's working as a bobbin boy for this guy. And he gets to work early, and he stays late, and he exceeds the expectations of his boss continually. And so the boss rewarded him by doing what? What do you think the boss rewarded him by doing? He's a 13-year-old kid. What do you think the boss notices? Man, this kid's getting it done. He gets to work early. He stays late. What do you think the boss did to reward him?
Did he give him a book?
He gave him access to come to his house and to borrow any book he wanted.
Wow.
Which thus came up with that there was the idea for the library.
Did he give him a little plastic card? And he's like, "No, if you don't have this, you can't take a book."
No, and he also didn't. But this was a huge thing to have access to a book. That was one of the separations between the poor and the wealthy. Was if you had access to knowledge, you could become successful. But if you didn't, you couldn't. And so having access to the books was like a golden key to financial freedom. It was awesome. Okay. Now, Andrew Carnegie has another notable quotable here. He says, this is an awesome notable quotable that I love. There is little success where there is little laughter. There is little success where there is little laughter. Jason, can you explain the atmosphere up here at the Thrive Time Show and why people are always laughing and having a good time?
Oh, it's rocking. I mean, it's like any romantic comedy. I'm just kidding. No, it's there's just this culture of positivity. We have a super bumping, high-paced, high BPM playlist going all the time.
Yep.
You're constantly cracking jokes. John's always singing to the point where my clients they come in to hear him sing. It's awesome. But there's always something good happening, so it's hard to be in a bad mood up here. Now, I can tell you, we had a guy on Friday. I'm not sure when this podcast comes out, so we don't know what day it actually happened. I can say a guy on Friday. Mm-hmm. I'm walking out. Did I tell you about this guy? I don't think so. Walking out of the office, and one of our team members pulls me aside and says, "Hey, this guy's been complaining and says he doesn't, like working here and the pressure of being, doesn't like the pressure they were putting on him in the call center and the pressure we're putting on him." And so I said, well, let's fire him. Why would I fire somebody who's complaining to coworkers, Jason? Why would I do that? Well, because if you have that one low energy person that's going to completely disrupt the flow that's keeping everybody happy and productive, it's going to fester over time and get worse and worse. Because, I've seen it in shop. Luckily we have a great team right now, so we don't have to worry about it. But there's been plenty of people where you come in and, elephant culture set up just like it is here. Yep. Fast playlist. The only prerequisite is you come in with a happy attitude. There you go. Wanting to be awesome. But you have that one person who just wakes up and, I just had a bad day and I want to tell you about it. And then as they do that, the next person starts to feel negative and then they want to talk about their bad day and how it affected them. And it just goes on and on and on. So again, if you work for me and you yawn a lot and you're not laughing, having a good time, it's weird, but you will be fired for not having a good time. Which is a self-perpetuating cycle. No, I think it's awesome. I've worked in so many different corporate jobs where the whole industry is just gloom. It's gray cubicles, fluorescent lighting. Everybody's like, well, it's another Monday. Hey, how are you doing? I'm good. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Almost there. And then Thursday, how are you? Another day, another dollar. And then Friday, how's it going? Almost ready for the weekend. It's like the same cycle. Right. Unbelievable. So again, Andrew Carnegie writes, there is little success where there is little laughter. Our next notable quotable coming in hot from Andrew Carnegie is this: you are what you think. So just think big, believe big, act big, work big, give big, forgive big, laugh big, love big, and live big. You are what you think, he says. Just think big, believe big, act big, work big, give big, forgive big, laugh big, love big, and live big. One of the powerful teaching moments I hope the listeners get today is stop setting small, stupid goals for yourself. Stop making it your dream to have a really crappy house. Stop making it your goal to have a really crappy lot in life. Dream big. Make no small dreams. Make big dreams. It takes just as much time and effort to make a small goal happen or a big goal. True. So set big goals. And now, without any further ado, let's get into the reading of the Gospel of Wealth from the late, great immigrant Andrew Carnegie. All right, Jason, what do you got? The problem of our age is the proper administration of wealth, so that the ties of brotherhood may still bind together the rich and poor in harmonious relationship. The conditions of human life have not only been changed but revolutionized within the past few hundred years. In former days, there was little difference between the dwelling, dress, food, and environment of the chief and those of his retainers. The Indians are today where civilized man then was. When visiting the Sioux, I was led to the wigwam of the chief. It was just like the others in external appearance, and even within the difference was trifling between it and those of the poorest of his braves. The contrast between the palace of the millionaire and the cottage of the laborer with us today measures the change which has come with civilization. This change, however, is not to be deplored, but welcomed as highly beneficial. It is
All right, quick timeout. So what he's saying so far is that in the history of humanity, for a long time, there wasn't a huge difference between super rich and super poor people, okay? Because there wasn't so many accoutrements, so much swagaliciousness.
Ooh, accoutrements.
But during the 1901, at the time Andrew Carnegie puts out this book, a super wealthy guy was balling. I mean, he had a huge mansion. He had all the accoutrements. He had all the swagaliciousness. He had all the material possessions that you could possibly want. And the poor guy had little. So he's like, over time, there's been a bigger divide between the wealthy and the poor. And he's saying, in a nice way, but he's saying that's a good thing.
Right.
So let's see if we agree with Andrew Carnegie. Back to you in the booth, Jason, which is great because I'm in the booth too.
It is well, nay, essential for the progress of the race that the houses of some should be homes for all that is highest and best in literature and the arts, and for all the refinements of civilization, rather than none should be so. Much better this great irregularity than universal squalor.
Okay, wait a second. So again, I want to make sure you're getting this idea. He's saying it's better to have a disparity between the rich and the poor than to have universal poverty. Go to Venezuela. Go to Brazil. Go to Cuba. Go to socialist places where socialism, aka mandatory universal poverty, exists. And let me tell you, that is a bad place to go to. When you go to a place where universal poverty is the rule of the land, because is the law of the land because of socialism, where everybody gets the same amount. When everybody gets the same amount, nobody strives to do a good job. Therefore, there's no innovation, there's no improvement, there's no inventions, and the world just stays bad. But when you are chasing a prize called capitalism, called cash, called winners and losers, there's all sorts of innovation. Because people, when they're selfishly chasing a profit, they're going to innovate and make great things, whether it be airplanes, cars, software, computers, apps, websites. Everyone's trying to one-up each other. Thus, things get better.
Right.
But when everyone makes the same amount of money, things fall apart. Continue, my friend.
I just have to say, I love that you're able to break that down so easily, because we're like 3/4 of a paragraph in, and homie, you could tell that he read books because he writes like Shakespeare talked.
Right. Well,
and nobody does that.
This is why I want to do the show with you on this, because he's a deep writer.
Yeah.
But let's continue.
Without wealth, there can be no. What is that word?
What is that word? Let me see.
Mycenas. It's got the encyclopedia.
Why don't you circle it real quick? That's a. Let's see. And it printed weird too.
The only time.
Okay, so
I was doing so hot.
You read it to me, and I'll type it in, and I'll see if I can find out what it is. What's? Tell me the word again.
All right, America. It's spelled MAECENAS, but it's got that weird combination AE, like encyclopedia.
Let's go with. Wow, that's a. It's Let's see here. Okay, I think I got it. Let's try. Maecenas. Wow, what a creepy voice.
Maecenas.
A generous patron, especially of literature or art.
Oh.
So read it again there, please.
Without wealth, there can be no Maecenas.
But do it again and then don't say Maecenas so I can hit my button.
Without wealth, there can be no
Messinas.
Oh, do it again. Because I'm going to time it where I do that, and I hit another button at the same time, and it's going to be awesome how I do it. Because it's like I want to hit that button, and then I'm going to hit the holy cow button at the same time. Let's go for it again.
All right. Without wealth, there can be no
Messinas.
Holy cow!
Nice. Let's continue.
The good old times were not good old times. Neither master nor servant was as well situated then as today. A relapse to old conditions would be disastrous to both, not the least so to him who serves, and who would sweep away civilization with it. But whether the change be for good or ill, it is upon us beyond our power to alter, and therefore to be accepted and made the best of. It is a waste of time to criticize the inevitable.
Okay, it's a waste of time to criticize the inevitable. He's saying this is a good thing that there is a disparity between super wealthy and super poor people. This being somebody who started working. Let's remember, because somebody out there is already upset with my man. They're already upset. Somebody. We got a socialist listening. Okay, they're already upset. This being a guy who started working full time, 12 hours per day at the age of 13 for $36 a week. This is a guy who is saying it's great to have this sort of disparity. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just called us, and we got her on the phone. Let me pick up the phone real quick. And okay, I think we're going live with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She has comments on so far on Andrew's book. And go ahead, caller. Wow, she sounds like a man. And she's also, I think we lost her. Let me cue up what she just said again.
Sounds like she has like a cold.
Yeah, socialists don't like this book at all. Continue, my friend.
It is easy to see how the change has come. One illustration will serve for almost every phase of the cause. In the manufacture of products, we have the whole story. It applies to all combinations of human industry as stimulated and enlarged by the inventions of this scientific age. Formerly, articles were manufactured at the domestic hearth or in small shops which formed part of the household.
So back in the day, things were originally made in a small shop, handcrafted by a person. So as an example, a shoe would be made by somebody who was making a shoe. That's what they did. Their job was, they were a cobbler. They made shoes, right?
Sometimes out of wood because they're ridiculous.
Now let me ask you this, Jason. You've been on the earth for how many years now?
26 hot years.
Okay. Do you know of anybody who is a cobbler?
Personally, no.
Really?
Yeah, I think my only experience with anybody who actually worked on shoes, other than shoes that I bought in a store, was I had to have some boots resold.
Resold? Like you're selling them again? No.
Oh, man. I get
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. No, but seriously. The shoe to have your shoe made today by somebody by hand.
I'm still laughing at Tim.
I don't think there's anybody. I mean, I think if you apply to go to college and the counselor says, "What do you want to do?" and you say, "I want to be a cobbler," I think they would say, that laugh track is Timothy Johnson, the ophthalmologist from Alabama, from way downtown. Bang. All right. But again, he's talking about how back in the day, people actually made the shoes. Continue.
The master and his apprentices worked side by side, the latter living with the master and therefore subject to the same conditions. When these apprentices rose to be masters, there was little or no change in their mode of life, and they, in turn, educated in the same routine succeeding apprentices. There was substantially social equality and even political equality, for those engaged in industrial pursuits had then little or no political voice in the state. But the inevitable results of such a mode of manufacture was crude articles at high prices. Today, the world obtains commodities.
Wait. So he's saying back in the day, the result was you had to pay a ton of money for a crappy shoe. What? Yes, you had to pay a ton of money for a crappy shoe. No.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
That's the thing. Now, here's the deal. Back in the day, you had to pay a ton of money for a crappy shoe. Why? Well, he's gonna explain this to you, but everybody was making the same amount of money, right?
Right.
And where else are you gonna get a shoe? It takes a dude like an entire day to make a pair of shoes for you.
Yep.
So most people had one pair of crappy shoes, and don't believe that the shoes were awesome just because they were handcrafted. You got to be kidding me.
Nope.
Especially if somebody knew that no matter how much money, or no matter how good of a shoe they made, they would make the same amount of money. When somebody knew. This is how it happened, okay? A cobbler back in the day, he starts to figure out pretty quick. He's been making shoes for 10 years, all right? And he starts to figure out, no matter how fast or slow I go, I make the same amount of money. And no matter how good or bad the shoes are, I get paid the same. And the most I can ever hope to be is what my boss is. And my boss's job sucks too because he's also making shoes.
Right.
Therefore, I'm going to mail it in. Jason, have you not seen this at jobs before where people, because up here at this office, we have merit-based pay. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can make more based upon what?
How hard you work.
There it is. But at most jobs, you make the same no matter how hard you work or how not hard you work. Have you ever seen people at any of your previous jobs mailing it in when they know they can't make any more money?
Yeah. Back when I used to work in customer service, I always approach everything like it's a game. Not that I want to be like the best, which I do, but at the same time, like, how much can I get done? Because I don't want to be bored. My whole thing is I don't want to go to work and then be bored out of my mind. And so we would do email-based customer service and calls. If I cleared my email queue, I would immediately hop on calls. My boss would be like, Jason, you're not on calls today. I'd be like, well, I have nothing to do. I need to do something. Whereas you'd have other people that would just like doink around with the same email. Be like, well, they're still going to pay me $10 an hour, and they didn't give me a quota on what I had to get done. So I'm going to type as long as I can on this one.
Continue reading The Gospel of Wealth by Andrew Carnegie.
Today, the world obtains commodities of excellent quality at prices which even the generation preceding this would have deemed incredible. In the commercial world, similar causes have produced similar results, and the race is benefited thereby.
As an example, I'm wearing And One shorts today, which I think back in the day, people would go, those man-prees are incredible. My wife calls them man-prees because capris are like these shorts that women wear that are like almost pants.
Yeah.
Shorts.
Actual man-prees are coming back.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, good, because I wear them. Okay, so my And One shorts, I always buy the largest pair I can buy, and I buy them for $9.99. Now, those are very cheap.
Very.
My undershirts I wear, I always get the ones at Walmart. I try to buy new ones every week. They're $3.99.
Oh, yeah.
$4? I mean, the George brand is hot.
Oh, my new move is I go to Target, the Goodfellow brand. It's like like Target's version of the Gap. You can get 6 of them for $5, and I just wear them all the time.
What? Repeat that.
So
you can get 6 what?
You can get 6 of these awesome, like very modernized shirts, all black if you're trying to go the Steve Jobs look, and they're like $5.99 or $6.99.
For 6 of them?
Yeah.
Holy crap, Batman.
Holy cow.
Oh, that's a hot deal. What's the name of that brand again?
It's Goodfellow and Company.
Oh. You learn something every day here on the Thrive Time Show. I need to marinate on that. Tell us the prices one more time and where you're getting it. Tell us the brand, the prices, what you're getting. Tell us one more time as we marinate on that.
So you go to this ritzy place called Target, go over to the men's apparel section, and where they have all of their like undershirts, you get these awesome fitting V-necks or crew necks. There's 5 or 6 in the pack, and it's like $5.99.
It's unbelievable, and it's because over time things get cheaper in a capitalistic economy. Back in the day, 1999 was the time I bought myself a Micron computer. What? I bought myself a Micron computer. 333 megahertz of RAM. Let me tell you how it sounded. And then I had a monitor. It was a big monitor. It was like a 25-inch monitor.
Wow.
And that thing was thick and heavy. I think they loaded those things up with cement and then shipped them. I mean, it was the heaviest. Do you remember old school TVs, how heavy they were?
Yeah, and you'd open the back and there wasn't anything in there, but they were so heavy.
It's crazy. So all I'm saying is that the TV, back in the day, that computer, which was super slow, and the printer, it was between $5,000 and $6,000, dude, for that.
Right.
And it was slow. Now you can buy a Mac Mini that's faster for like $700.
Yeah, and it's like the weight of the stack of papers I'm holding right now.
And it's significantly faster.
Oh, yeah.
Unless that's what happens in a capitalistic economy because Apple is trying to beat the crap out of, let's say, Dell computers, and Hewlett-Packard is trying to beat the crap out of Apple And they do lose every year, but they try.
Yeah.
And so the cost of computers continues to go down. I mean, you can get a fairly decent computer now, a good computer for like $300 at Best Buy.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy how things get more efficient and less expensive, and the quality goes up over time. Unless you're an idiot communist, a.k.a. AOC, these things make sense.
Right.
But if you're based in New York City and you're voting and you're in favor of AOC, apparently the concept of capitalism isn't being taught anywhere, or it's not being understood anywhere, or people are lazy everywhere. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure. I think people have gone crazy in New York City since they banned large sugary beverages. The people wanted the large sugary beverages. That once they got those banned, apparently they've lost their freaking minds, and now they're voting for people like AOC. Continue, Jason.
The poor enjoy what the rich could not before afford. That sounds so good. Poor enjoy what the rich could not before afford.
Bam.
What were the luxuries have become the necessaries of life. The laborer has now more comforts than the landlord had a few generations ago. The farmer has more luxuries than the landlord had, and is more richly clad and better housed. The landlord has books and pictures rarer and appointments more artistic than the king could then obtain. The price we pay for this salutary change is, no doubt, great. We assemble thousands of operatives in the factory, in the mine, and in the counting house, of whom the employer can know little or nothing, and to whom the employer is little better than a myth. All intercourse, that's hilarious. All intercourse between them is at an end. Rigid castes are formed, and as usual, mutual ignorance breeds mutual distrust. Each caste is without sympathy for the other and ready to mutually distrust. Each caste.
So he's saying that as an industrial society improves or gets bigger, it is possible to no longer know your boss.
Right.
Because the company gets so big that you don't know your employees. So you, as an employee, start to build a distrust or dislike for your boss who you've never met, because you start to envy what they have.
Yeah.
And then as a boss, you're so detached from the reality of the everyday life of your employee that you start to resent their complaining, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So this is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, and this is why what she says isn't possible. She says, I believe that every American should have stable, dignified housing. It can't happen. No. Because if you're lazy, and have you met people, Jason, who refuse to get a job?
Absolutely.
People who are your age. Can you think of somebody around your age who refuses to get a job who's about your age?
I can think of more than a handful.
Okay. And so what do they live with their parents, or what do they do?
That, or they have some situation where the parent provides income for their housing.
But they could work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So eventually, though, if the parent cuts them off, they're going to then be poor, which is a consequence for doing nothing.
Yes.
And then they would have to get a job. But see, under Ocasio's game plan, under Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, under AOC's plan, her plan is that everyone just gets a free house or free college.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, have you been to college before, at a college where people were attending for free?
Yes.
And did they value their education?
No.
What?
I've had one friend who got a scholarship who worked his butt off.
It's interesting.
And he knew I came from a troubled background. I studied, was able to get this because of my grades. I cannot let these people down. So he over freaking delivered. But I've had other people who especially go on to do like sports.
Yep.
And they get not only a free ride, which is highly sought after, but they get that elevated status because now they're the big man. They're playing for the teams that are on TV.
There you go.
And that it's like the more that you get, the easier it is to become lazy. And some people just eat it up. And then now, as a result of that, neither of them are playing football, and they don't have a college degree because they didn't finish because they wanted to party and be lazy.
It's interesting how people don't value what they're given for free.
Right.
Isn't it interesting how people don't value what they're given for free?
It's puzzling to me, but
it's human nature.
Right.
It's human nature. So I encourage you, if you're out there today, listen to what Andrew Carnegie is saying. Now, Jason, will you circle where we're at right now in the book? And then I think you have to let Dr. Breck in the door.
Yes.
So circle where we're at right now.
Got it.
Then I will continue reading as you open the door for the incredible Dr. Breck And just give me one page. That's all I need. Just one page. I'll read one page of this incredible book, The Gospel of Wealth, as you open the door for our man. Okay, I've got this. It says, each caste is without sympathy for the other and ready to credit anything disparaging in regard to it. Under the law of competition, the employer of thousands is forced into the strictest economies, among which the rates paid to labor figure prominently. And often there is friction between the employer and the employed, between capital and labor, between rich and poor. Human society loses homogeneity. Whoa. I got to look that word up. Homogeneity. Let's spell that real quick. It's HOMOGENEITI. Let me cue it up.
Homogeneity.
Homogeneity. Wow. He says, wow. Under the law of competition, the employer of thousands is forced into the strictest economies, among which the rates paid to labor figure prominently. And often there is a friction between the employer and the employed, between labor and capital, between rich and poor. Human society loses its
homogeneity.
Human society loses
homogeneity.
One more time. It says, everybody say it with me now. Human society loses
homogeneity.
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 All right, we're reading the third paragraph down here as I'm having a blasty blast hitting this word here. It says the quality. This word, by the way,
homogeneity,
means the quality or state of being all the same or all of the same kind. That is what the word
homogeneity
means. All right, Jason, continue.
Is it like
please.
homogeneous?
It says the quality or state of being all the same or all of the same kind. And that that word is
homogeneity.
Okay, continue. All right.
The price which society pays for the law of competition, like the price it pays for cheap comforts and luxuries, is also great. But the advantage of this law are also greater still. For it is to this law that we owe our wonderful material development, which brings improved conditions in its train. But whether the law be benign or not, we must say of it, as we say of the change in the conditions of men to which we have referred, it is here we cannot evade it. No substitutes for it have been found. And while the law may be sometimes hard for the individual, it is best for the race because it ensures the survival of the fittest in every department. We accept and welcome, therefore, as conditions to which we must accommodate ourselves, great inequality of environment, the concentration of business, industrial, and commercial in the hands of a few, and the law of competition between these as being not only beneficial, but essential for the future progress of the race. Having accepted these, it follows that there must be great scope for the exercise of special ability in the merchant and in the manufacturer who has the conduct or that has to conduct affairs upon a great scale. That this talent for organization and management is rare among men is proved by the fact that it invariably secures for its processor.
Quick time out. I want to make sure I cue this up because
homogeneity.
There's a word that I want to hit. I want to hit that one more time. I just want to
homogeneity.
But let me see if I can time it right because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to say.
You know what they say.
Homogeneity.
All right. I know. Please repeat the last line.
Okay. Having accepted these, it follows that there must be great scope for the exercise of special ability in the merchant and in the manufacturer who has to conduct affairs upon a great scale.
Okay, continue.
That this talent for organization and management is rare among men is
He
proved.
says, but this, what?
That this talent for organization and management is rare.
Have you noticed how hard it is to manage people?
Oh, yeah.
Think about elephant in the room for a minute. Is that not truly the hardest aspect of running the Elephant in the Room Men's Grooming Lounge? Is that not the hardest part, is managing people?
Oh, yeah, and I tell every new person, it's like, hey, you're going to get sales, you're going to get inventory, you're going to get customer service. Your main thing is you have 10 to 12 people that you have to manage on a daily basis. Go.
Managing people is the hardest thing there is to do. It's a talent or skill that if you can manage people, you can do well. But if you can't manage people and manage systems, you got to be that kind of person. And it's a rare skill. And those that can figure it out, those that are curious, those that apply what they're learning on this show and who can build systems and recruit the people to do the systems, those people do well. Those people that can't figure out how to build systems and how to keep people accountable for running those systems and implementing those systems, those people don't do well. But the people out there who are just very good at doing a thing oftentimes get promoted to incompetence, because just because you're good at making shoes doesn't mean you're going to be good at running the shoe factory.
Right.
So that's a thing. You got to learn how to manage people. That is the toughest skill for people to learn. I see it all the time. Great salespeople usually struggle to manage salespeople. Great architects usually struggle to manage architects. Managing people is a tough task. Jason, back to you in the booth that I am also in, as we're reading The Gospel of Wealth by Andrew Carnegie.
The experience in affairs always rate the man whose services can be obtained as a partner as not only the first consideration, but such as to render the question of his capital scarcely worth considering. For such men soon create capital, while, without the special talent required, capital soon takes wings. Such men become interested in firms or corporations using millions and estimating only simple interest to be made upon the capital invested. It is inevitable that their income must exceed their expenditures, and that they must accumulate wealth. Nor is there any middle ground which such men can occupy, because the great manufacturing or commercial concern, which does not earn at least interest upon its capital, soon becomes bankrupt.
Wait a minute. So what he's saying is that if investors invest in a company for the purpose of scaling it, then as a byproduct of trying to produce a return for the investors, the managers or leadership has to become rich.
Right.
Because otherwise, why would they do it? Mm-hmm. So they have to, again, there's these three, it's a three-legged stool here. You have capital, that's the investors, that's the money being put into a business. You have labor, the people doing the jobs, and then you have the consumer over here. And you've got to try to satisfy all three, but the problem is, if you lower the price too low, the customer's super happy.
Right.
But then labor gets upset because they're not making any money.
Yep.
And the investors are mad.
Yep.
If you raise the prices too high, then the consumer is mad, but the investors are temporarily happy.
Yeah.
So the key is, how do you balance all three? There has to be constant conflict, which is why a lot of people can't handle entrepreneurship, because it causes, when you have to deliver the price, you have to keep your prices at a certain price point or below, you're going to irritate labor, who always thinks they need to get paid more.
Yep.
But if you ask the average customer, hey, should this computer be cheaper? They'll go, yeah. But if you ask the employee, should you get paid more? They go, yep. And the manager who manages both of these people also has to be accountable to the investors. And therefore, they are going to make a lot of money as a byproduct of balancing those three. But it is constant conflict if you want to be at the top. If you want to be the boss, you have to make big obstacles seem small. And trying to satisfy those three groups all the time, that is a tough road to go. Jason, continue.
You just gave me a really quick idea. Instead of constant contact, we should offer a new service called Constant Conflict, where people subscribe and we just come into their business monthly and shake it up.
Constant conflict. Continue.
It must either go forward or fall behind. To stand still is impossible. Ooh, I like that. It is a condition essential for its successful operation that it should be thus far profitable, and even that, in addition to interest on capital, it should make profit. It is a law as certain as any of the others named that men possessed of this peculiar talent for affair under the free play of economic forces must, of necessity, soon be in receipt of more revenue than can be judiciously expended upon themselves. And this law is as beneficial for the race as the others.
Okay.
Objections to the foundations upon which society is based are not in order, because the condition of the race is better with these than it has been with any others which have been tried.
So he's saying that we've already tried socialism and we know it doesn't work. We've already tried communism and we know it doesn't work. We also know that capitalism isn't perfect, but it's the best we've got. We've already tried the other isms. We've already tried socialism, communism. We've already tried these things, and now we are doing capitalism, and we know that capitalism is the best. Think about this. The standard and the quality of life in Israel, is it higher than that of Venezuela? Is the quality of life in America better than that of North Korea? Is the standard of living in South Korea better than that of North Korea? Yes. Why? Because capitalism is the best we've got. Capitalism is awesome. Socialism, terrible. Just so we're getting this idea, I want to make sure people understand this. Let me tell you how much I can't stand socialists because they make everything bad for everybody. I'm a Christian, right? So I'm a Judeo-Christian. That's what I am. And a lot of Christians I know get really worked up if people are not a Christian. They go, oh gosh, you're not a Christian, and therefore I'm worried about your soul. And I do believe in heaven and hell, and I am a Christian. So I do sincerely have that thought. But I am more concerned if you're a socialist than I am whether you're a Christian or not. Because if you're a socialist, you're making life bad for everybody. And so because I'm a Christian, I had that thought before doing today's show, and I thought to myself, is that a good thought? I mean, does that even line up with my faith? Is it okay as a Christian? Is it cool for me to be more irritated with socialists than I am with pagans who eat goat heads? I don't know any pagans that eat goat heads. You know what I mean, though? I mean, should I be more concerned about socialists than pagans as a Christian? Where does that fall? Well, I have a notable quote I'm going to read to you from 1 Timothy 5:8 from the book called the Bible. Jason, this verse, it will blow your mind.
I'm ready.
As a non-Christian man would you describe yourself as agnostic, atheist? How would you describe yourself?
Straight up pagan.
Straight up pagan.
Just kidding. It's apparent. I've been told by others I teeter the line between agnostic and atheist because whereas I don't have one profound belief, I do see the value in what people enjoy as far as their religion goes.
Yeah. Now you wearing that goat head today in the studio is how I know you're a pagan.
Yeah, I mean it was a little chilly, so I had to come out and represent.
But this is what it says, 1 Timothy 5:8. It reads, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Oh, wow.
I'm right. I get a mega point. I should be more concerned with lazy socialist communists than I should be. I should be more concerned with these people than I should be with unbelievers.
Holy cow!
I knew it. Yes. Yes. I get all the mega points. Yes. Yes. And yes. Glory. Glory. Woo. Yes. I feel it. Yes. 1 Timothy 5:8. Anyone who does not provide for the relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith, is worse than an unbeliever. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
That's a great quote.
I think that's why I hate socialists so much. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much capitalism is baked into the Judeo-Christian worldview. But that's why, it's crazy. But even though I have a different faith than Jewish people, we agree on the first book. And then Christians, we agree there's two books, Old Testament, New Testament. Jewish people believe in the one book, the Old Testament. And then Mormons have their new book, part 3.
Yeah. So
you got the Old Testament, New Testament, and they believe in the third book. But that's why I agree with people that share my worldview so much, is because our religious views tie into capitalism. That's what formed this country, that worldview, that if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. Have you ever heard that verse, Jason? If you don't work, you shouldn't eat?
I've heard will work for food.
You haven't heard that idea, though?
Mm-mm.
Really?
But I like that idea.
Okay. Let me see here. If you don't work, you shouldn't eat. Bible verse. Let me find the verse here for you. I'm looking it up right now. A lot of pressure. I feel a lot of pressure. Public typing, public podcast. I feel a lot of pressure over here. But let me read it to you. This is from, it says 2 Thessalonians 3:10. We also gave you the rule that if you don't work, you don't eat.
Straight up.
There it is. If you don't work, you don't eat. But apparently Cortez says if you don't work, you should.
If you don't work, you get a house.
You get a house. If you don't work, you get a house. Now get out there and get motivated there, Bobby. All right, continue, Jason. Jason, I want you to know this. If you and I were to go back in time to the year 1870, you'd be one heck of a bobbin boy.
Yes.
All right. Again, if we went back to 1870, you would be just the best bobbin boy I've
They don't call me Bob and Beasley for nothing.
Okay, continue.
Of the effect of any new substitutes proposed, we cannot be sure. Here it comes. The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests.
Read that again.
The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests.
Read it again, but read it with more passion. Kind of go slow. Let's do slow and with passion as I cue up this song that socialists are so passionate about. Let me cue it up real quick. Let me get it going here. Let me hit the button here. Let me hit the. Okay.
The socialist or I have a better one. The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests.
That's pretty good, man. That's impressive.
I try this all the time at home.
When did you nail the Russian voice?
When I got obsessed with what's his name? Is it Ivan Drago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? That's impressive. Ivan Drago, we couldn't get him on the show today. We couldn't get Dolph Lundgren on the show today. He was out shooting Expendables 74 with Sylvester Stallone.
Sly Stone at it again.
But he did call in, and we believe he called in. We don't know. We see the sound file, and we're going, I think this is a voicemail from Ivan Drago. Let me cue it up real quick and see what he had to say here.
I must break you.
Oh, hey, wait, let me cue it up again. Let me see what he said.
I must break you.
Okay, continue.
I got so caught up my Drago. Okay, for civilization took its start from the day. Actually, I'll run it back from the top.
Yeah, do it. Run it back from the top.
Complete sentence. The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests. For civilization took its start from the day that the capable, industrious workman said to his incompetent and lazy fellow, "If thou dost not sow, thou shalt not reap."
There it is. That's the idea. Now, Andrew Carnegie was not a Christian, but he shared the capitalistic worldview. Read that last little portion.
Industrious workman said to his incompetent and lazy fellow, "If thou dost not sow, thou shalt not reap."
Okay, continue.
And thus ended primitive communism by separating the drones from the bees. One who studies this subject will soon be brought face to face with the conclusion that upon the sacredness of property civilization itself depends the right of the laborer to his $100 in this savings bank, and equally the legal right of the millionaire to his millions. To these who propose to substitute communism for this intense individualism, the answer, therefore, is the race has tried that. All progress that the barbarous day to the present time has resulted from its displacement. Not evil, but good has come to the race from the accumulation of wealth by those who have the ability and energy that produce it.
Can you go back?
Yeah.
And to that line he said where socialists are doing what they're attacking. Do you remember that line? He says socialists are attacking?
Yes. The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests.
Socialists are to be regarded as attacking what?
The foundation upon which civilization itself rests.
The foundation upon which civilization
itself rests.
Civilization itself rests. Wow. That right there is a powerful idea. I 100% agree with that idea. I believe that for biblical justification for the Christians out there, 1 Timothy 5:8, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Carnegie is saying socialists are to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests. That's strong right there, Andrew Carnegie. Continue, Jason.
But even if we admit for a moment that it might be better for the race to discard its present foundation, individualism, that is a nobler ideal that man should labor not for himself alone, but in and for a brotherhood of his fellows and share with them all in common. Realizing Swedenborg's idea of heaven, where, as he says, the angels derive their happiness not from laboring for self, but for each other, even admit all this, and a sufficient answer is this is not evolution but revolution. It necessitates the changing of human nature itself, a work of eons, even if we're good to change it, which we cannot know.
Now, okay. Now, this is another biblical idea. He's saying right now, that you want to work as though it's almost like your worship. You want to work not just selfishly, but you want to work
For others.
So, and you're going to benefit in the process. And so there is a Bible verse I'll read to you from Colossians 3:23-24. It reads, "Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." Wow. It says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." So, as a Christian, if you're out there today, you should work as unto the Lord. That should be how the world should judge you, based upon your work ethic. I would believe, according to the Bible verses I've read, I don't think you can be a Christian and have a bad work ethic. Oh, yeah, I don't believe you can. If you're out there, if you're a Christian today and you're lazy, I think you're not a Christian. That's my take. I don't think you can be. You know why? Because it says, whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart. If you read the Hebrew, remember, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew. And if you look it up, the word work means worship. That's what it says in the Bible. So if you're a Christian out there, you're a Bible, you're beating that Bible, you're talking about, hey, I'm a Christian, you better have a great work ethic.
Right.
Because it's part of the game. God gave Adam the garden in Genesis, look it up, so that he could work it. God gave Adam the garden so that he could work it. It says in Genesis and in Exodus, you're supposed to work 6 days and rest on the seventh, the Sabbath. Observe that day. Observe it as holy. But when you have a job and you're a Christian out there and you don't like your job or you don't like your boss, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to work. It says whatever you do. Again, Colossians 3:23. Look it up. Read it. It says whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. So whether you like your boss or not, work as unto the Lord. That's how you do it. That's the Christian perspective. Now, do we all make mistakes? Yeah. Do we all have occasional bad days? Sure. But if your natural default setting is being a slacker, I don't think that's a good. I don't think you can do that and be a Christian simultaneously. Continue, Jason.
It is not practicable in our day or in our age, even if desirable. Theoretically, even if desirable theoretically, it belongs to another and long succeeding sociological stratum. Our data is with what is practicable now, with the next step possible in our day and generation. It is criminal to waste our energies in endeavoring to uproot when all we can profitably or possibly accomplish is to bend the universal tree of humanity a little in the direction most favorable to the production of good fruit under existing circumstances. We might as well urge the destruction of the highest existing type of man because he failed to reach our ideal as favor the destruction of individualism, private property, the law of accumulation of wealth, and the law of competition. For these are the highest results of human experience, the soil in which society so far has produced the best fruit. Unequally or unjustly, perhaps, as these laws sometimes operate, and imperfect as they appear to the idealist, they are, nevertheless, like the highest type of man, the best and most valuable of all that humanity has yet accomplished.
Read that last line one more time, please.
Unequally or unjustly, perhaps, as these laws sometimes operate, and imperfect as they appear to And imperfect.
Okay, as they
appear to the idealist.
Keep going.
They are, nevertheless, like the highest type of man, the best and most valuable of all that humanity has yet accomplished.
So what Carnegie is pointing out is that even though they are imperfect, according to the idealist, it's the best we have.
Right.
So as an example, let's take socialism and put it into basketball for a second. And let's say that LeBron James is always good. Or let's pick your favorite player. Let's say it's Kobe Bryant or James Harden or whoever your favorite player is. imagine they're very, very good. And so the ref says, time out here, boys. Time out here, boys. Let me hit my timeout button. So the ref gets up out there on the court and he says, hey, quick timeout. Foul, number 23. You're too big, you're too fast, and you're making more money than everybody else. You're making a lot more money. Timeout. LeBron, you're making more money than everybody else. In fact, you're making more money this year than those 6 other guys sitting on the bench over there. So what I'm going to do is, henceforth, you're going to get paid the exact same. Everybody's getting paid the same amount, and LeBron has to wear ankle weights so that it's fair. Now, if you get a chance to do that, what'll happen is the guys on the bench are going to go, yes! Thank you, Jesus. Yes, they're going to love the idea they're making as much money as LeBron. They're going to love that idea.
Right.
They're going to love they're making as much money as LeBron. Oh, yes, they are. They're going to love that they're getting that LeBron wears ankle weights and they can win. It's like a bunch of white guys playing basketball and they'll lower the hoop to like 8 feet tall.
Woody Harrelson never lowered the hoop.
So for one moment they can dunk.
Right.
There's like it's like a thing. You watch a bunch of white guys. They'll lower the hoop to 8 or 9 feet, and they're like, for one moment in their life, they're actually up there dunking. They're like, oh, this is sick. Woo! I'm on fire. It's like lowering the grading curve where a B is an A. Did you ever go to a school where they had a grading curve like that, where they lowered the standards to let everybody score higher, Jason? Did you ever experience that?
Yep, my sophomore year in Algebra 2. There was a test that was, I would assume, standard. I hated math, but I was like a C average in math just because I didn't want to do the homework.
Sure.
I just show up for the test.
Yeah.
But even then, I scored higher than I should have because they're like, well, we actually redid the rubric and we did a curve. That way the grade is based off of who got the highest. So you had a kid in there who scored like, I want to say he got like a 104 because he answered the extra credit, which then gave everybody this huge weighted curve. And so my C went to like a B minus, which made me look like the man in Algebra 2, but I didn't earn that. It was all based off of the work somebody else did.
There it is. Jason, continue.
We start then with a condition of affairs under which the best interests of the race are promoted, but which inevitably gives wealth to the few. Thus far, accepting conditions as they exist, the situation can be surveyed and pronounced good. The question then arises, and if the foregoing be correct, it is the only question with which we have to deal. What is the proper mode of administering wealth after the law or after the laws upon which civilization is founded have thrown it into the hands of the few? And it is of this great question that I believe I offer the true solution. It will be understood that fortunes are here spoken of, not moderate sums saved by many years of effort, the returns on which are required for the comfortable maintenance and education of families. This is not wealth, but only competence, which it should be the aim of all to acquire.
Got it. Continue.
There are but 3 modes in which surplus wealth can be disposed of. It can be left to the families of the descendants, or it can be bequeathed for public purpose, or finally, it can be administered during their lives by its processors. Under the first and second modes, most of the wealth of the world that has reached the few has hitherto been applied.
Bequeath.
Think about that word for a second.
Bequeath.
Bequeath.
That means to leave to a person or other beneficiaries. So he's saying there's 3 modes, right? There's you can give it away to your family after you die.
Yep.
You could give it to
public purpose,
like a park, or give it to the public. Or you could administer it during your lifetime so that you could see the benefit of it. And instead of he's advocating, instead of doing handouts, you could do hand ups.
Yes.
Therefore, you could help people, kind of like if you put in $1, I'll match it, as opposed to here's $2. He's saying if you raise $1, I'll match it. The Boone Pickens method. That's what he's talking about. Continue, Jason.
Let us in turn consider.
Hey, real quick, I appreciate you reading this book, giving this book to us there, Jason. I appreciate you giving us the audio version of this book. In fact, you are doing a great job of
bequeathing
this book to us. Bequeathing. Okay, continue.
I'm slowly trying to get better with my
bequeath.
Okay, continue.
Let us in turn consider each of these modes. The first is the most.
Wait a second. Did he just say lettuce interns? What does he mean by that? Okay, continue, please.
Let us, in turn, consider each of these methods. The first is the most injudicious. In monarchical countries, the estate and the greatest portion of the wealth are left to the first son. that the vanity of the parent may be gratified by the thought that his name and title are to descend to succeeding generations unimpaired. The condition of this class in Europe today teaches the futility of such hopes of ambitions. The successors have become impoverished through their follies or from the fall in the value of land. Even in Great Britain, the strict law of entail has been found inadequate to maintain the status of a
basically, when
class.
you give your kids a bunch of stuff, it ruins their life.
Sure. What's that called?
Well, you do like a trust fund, baby. Yeah. It's where you give somebody something and they become entitled. They're just born affluent and they end up being just lazy. And when you give your kids a bunch of stuff, you ruin their life. And that's what he's talking about. So continue, Jason.
Its soil is rapidly passing into the hands of the stranger. Under Republican institutions, the division of property among the children is much fairer. But the question which forces itself upon thoughtful men in all lands is, why should men leave great fortunes to their children? If this is done from affection, is it not misguided affection? Observation teaches that, generally speaking, it is not well for the children that they should be so burdened.
When you give your kids stuff, you ruin their lives.
He just said it, word for word.
I'm just telling you, this is what happens. Don't give your kids a bunch of stuff. If you give them stuff, you will ruin their life. You will. You will ruin their life. Now, can you give your kids opportunities? Yes, but it's very important as parents. I have kids. It's very important as parents that we don't create entitled people. Because if you create entitled people, they want everything for free. They feel like they deserve everything. Jason, have you ever been around somebody in high school or college that was entitled, and somebody who just they were just given a bunch of stuff, so now they think they're awesome?
Yes.
And what was that like?
Well, it's the same thing over and over. The second they don't get what they want, they've never experienced that no before, so they flip out. And then you can't have a rational conversation with them, being somebody who has either worked for something or been given an opportunity in order to achieve whatever you wanted, because it's like you're speaking the King's English and they're speaking Cantonese.
Okay, continue, Jason.
Neither is it well for the state, beyond providing for the wife and daughters moderate sources of income, and very moderate allowances indeed, if any, for the sons, men may well hesitate. For it is no longer questionable that great sums bequeathed over work more for the injury than for the good of the recipients. Wise men will soon conclude that, for the best interests of the members of their families and of the estate, such bequests are in improper use of their means.
Okay.
It is not suggested that men who have failed to educate their sons to earn a livelihood shall cast them adrift in poverty. If any man has seen fit to rear his sons with a view to their living ideal, in view to their living ideal lives, or what is highly commendable, has instilled in them the sentiment that they are in a position to labor for public ends without reference to pecuniary conditions, then, of course, the duty of the parent is to see that such are provided for in moderation.
So he's talking about is you don't want to create entitled kids. Let me give you a Bible verse out there, folks at home. Proverbs 13:24. Proverbs 13:24. This right here is an incredible verse. And I think Dr. Breck told me that he was going to be out of town today. I think I'm having that thought right now. So this is what it says here. Proverbs 13:24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him. Ooh. So it's saying that if you don't spank your kids, discipline your kids, if you don't discipline your kids, you hate your kids. If you don't, Andrew's talking about you don't want to just give somebody a bunch of money that they didn't earn, because again, going back to the Old Testament, the word money means a certificate of appreciation. So you can't give people applause they didn't earn. That's like having a bad musician get on stage and do a horrible performance, and you tell the crowd, go ahead and show this person appreciation. Cheer for him. Yeah, give him a round of applause because this guy is great. Woo! And people are going, no, they're not good. And you're like, no. Hey, listen, he might not be good, but he's the best. Woo! And people are going, no, we don't like them. So when you put somebody in charge, when you have a son, when you have a daughter, and you put them in charge of your small business simply because they're related to you, but they haven't earned it, everybody around them knows it.
Yes.
And everybody can figure it out real quick. The only reason this guy's in charge is because his daddy gave him the job. And nobody respects you.
People hate nepotism.
You have to earn it. Continue, Jason.
There are instances of millionaires' sons unspoiled by wealth who, being rich, still perform great services in the community. Such are the very salt of the earth, as valuable as, unfortunately, they are rare. Still, it is not that exception, but the rule that men must regard, and looking at the usual result of enormous sums conferred upon legatees.
How are you spelling that?
Legatees.
Leg what?
Ates.
Ates. And, okay, we got here, it says, a member of a clergy, especially a cardinal, a general or governor of an ancient Roman province, or their deputy.
Legate.
Legate.
There it is. So, a lot of times,
Two E's. Get out of here, computer guy.
a lot of times, a lot of times,
You know what they say.
Legate.
again, a lot of times you're out there at a local bar or eatery, and
You know what they say.
Legate.
all right, continue.
The thoughtful man must shortly say, I would as soon leave to my son a curse as the almighty dollar. That's harsh. And admit to himself.
Well, he said I would what?
So it says, the thoughtful man must shortly say, I would as soon leave to my son a curse as the almighty dollar.
The thoughtful man what?
You know what they say.
Seriously, read it again.
The thoughtful man must shortly say,
got it.
and then in quotes, I would as soon leave to my son a curse.
I would as soon leave to my son
a curse
a curse
as the almighty dollar.
As the almighty dollar. Oh, that is good. That is really good. That is.
A lot of pressure. You got to rise above it. You got to harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow happy. Feel it. It's circular. It's like a carousel. You pay the quarter, you get on the horse. It goes up and down and around. Circular, circle with the music, the flow.
I'm in a flow
All
now.
good things.
I'm in a flow. I want to make sure that I'm getting this. And tell me if I'm reading this wrong. He says the thoughtful man must shortly say, I would as soon leave to my son a curse as the almighty dollar. That is hot. Continue, Jason.
And to admit to himself that it is not the welfare of the children, but the family pride which inspires these enormous legacies. As to the second mode, we're getting into mode 2 now.
Mode 2.
That of leaving wealth at death for public uses, it may be said that this is only a means for the disposal of wealth, provided a man is content to wait until he is dead before it becomes of much good in the world. Knowledge of the results of legacies bequeathed is not calculated to inspire the brightest hopes of much posthumous good being accomplished. The cases are not few in which the real object sought by the testator is not attained, nor are they few in which his real wishes are thwarted. In many cases, the bequests are so used as to become only monuments of his folly. It is well to remember that it requires the exercise of not less ability than that which acquired the wealth to use it so as to be really beneficial to the community. Besides this, it may fairly be said that no man is to be exalted for doing what he cannot help doing, nor is he to be thanked by the community to which he only leaves wealth at death. Men who leave vast sums in this way may fairly be thought men who would not have left it at all had they been able to take it with them. The memories of such cannot be held in grateful remembrance, for there is no grace in their gifts. It is not to be wondered at, that such bequests seem so generally to lack the blessing.
So he's talking about if you have wealth, you should give it away while you're still alive.
Right.
That's what he's talking about. Okay, continue.
The growing disposition to tax more and more heavily large estates left at death is a cheering indication of the growth of a salutary change in public opinion. The state of Pennsylvania now takes, subject to some exceptions, 1/10 of the property left by its citizens. The budget presented in the British Parliament the other day proposed to increase the death duties, and most significant of all, the new tax is to be a graduated one. Of all forms of taxation, this seems the wisest. Men who continue hoarding great sums all their lives, the proper use of which for public ends would work good to the community, should be made to feel that the community, in the form of the state, cannot thus be deprived of its proper share. By taxing estates heavily at death, the state marks its condemnation of the selfish millionaire's unworthy life.
So he is advocating for taxing you after you're dead. He's saying if you have not given back to the community, if you haven't deployed that capital to help those around you, Carnegie is in favor of a death tax because he's saying you're so selfish that you're going to build up a huge amount of money and die with it in the bank, he thinks that the government should take it, which is very interesting for a guy who's pro-capitalism to believe in a large death tax. Now, the folks at home want to know, how many more pages of glory do we have here? How many pages are you?
Let's see. We are about 1/4 of the way through this one. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you have 5 more pages.
I'd say 5 in total.
5 in total. Continue reading, my friend.
It is desirable that nations should go much further in this direction. Indeed, it is difficult to set bounds to the share of a rich man's estate, which should go at his death to the public through the agency of the state. And by all means, such taxes should be graduated, beginning at nothing upon moderate sums to dependents, and increasing rapidly as the amounts swell.
So he's saying that it should be a graduated tax, that if you die with a little money, you should be taxed a little or nothing. And if you have a moderate amount, you should be taxed a moderate amount. And if you have a huge amount of money when you die, you should be your estate should be hit with a huge tax. That's what Andrew Carnegie is saying. Continue, Jason.
Right. And increasingly rapidly as the amounts swell until of the millionaire's hoards, as of Shylock's at least, the other half comes to the privacy coffer of the state. This policy would work powerfully to introduce the rich man to attend the administration of wealth during his life, which is the end that society should always have in view as being that by far most fruitful for the people. Nor need it be feared that this policy would sap the root of enterprise and render men less anxious to accumulate, for to the class whose ambition it is to leave great fortunes and be talked about after their death, it will attract even more attention and, indeed, be a somewhat nobler ambition to have enormous sums paid over the state from their fortunes.
Got it.
There remains, then, only one mode of using great fortunes, but in this we have the true antidote for the temporary, unequal distribution of wealth, the reconciliation of the rich and the poor, a reign of harmony, another ideal, differing, indeed, from that of the communist in requiring only the further evolution of existing conditions, not the total overthrow of our civilization.
So he's saying the communist wants to fix the economic disparity between rich and poor by making universal poverty a thing, by taxing everybody.
Right.
He's advocating for a way to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor by giving your money away while you're still alive. That's what he's talking about.
Right.
Andrew Carnegie, the gospel of wealth. He's kind of tricky because as a capitalist, I don't think people thought he was going to go there.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where he's going.
He is going.
Continue taking us to Carnegie Town. Jason, back to you in the booth, the same booth that I'm in.
It is founded upon the present most intense individualism, and the race is projected to put it in practice by a degree whenever it pleases. Under its sway, we shall have an ideal state, in which the surplus wealth of the few will become, in the best sense, the property of the many, because administered for the common good, and this wealth, passing through the hands of the few, can be made a much more potent force for the elevation of our race than if it had been distributed in small sums to the people themselves.
Yes, 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 and yes. Even the poorest can be made to see this, and to agree that great sums gathered by some of their fellow citizens and spent for public purposes from which the masses reap the principal benefit are more valuable to them than if scattered among them through the course of many years, in trifling amounts through the course of many years. I think I just said that twice. Okay, if we consider what results flow from the Cooper Institute, for instance, to the best portion of the race in New York not possessed of means, and compare these with those which have arisen for the good of the masses from an equal sum distributed by Mr. Cooper in his lifetime in the form of wages, which is the highest form of distribution, being for work done and not for charity, we can form some estimate of the possibilities for the improvement of the race which lie embedded in the present law of the accumulation of wealth. Much of this sum, if distributed in small quantities among the people, would have been wasted in the indulgence of appetite, some of it in excess, and it may be doubted whether even part put to the best use, part whether even the part put to the best use, that of adding to the comforts of the home, would have yielded results for the race. As a race, at all comparable to those which are flowing and are to flow from the Cooper Institute from generation to generation, let the advocate of violent or radical change ponder well this thought. We might even go so far as to take another instance, that of Mr. Tilden's bequest of $5 million for a free library in the city of New York. But in referring to this, one cannot help saying involuntarily how much better if Mr. Tilden had devoted the last years of his life to the proper administration of the immense sums, in which case neither legal contest nor any other cause of delay would have interfered with his aims. But let us assume that Mr. Tilden's millions finally become the means of giving to us, this city, a noble public library, where the treasures of the world contained in books will be open to all forever, without money and without price. Considering the good of that part of the race which congregates in and around Manhattan Island, would its permanent benefit have been better promoted and had these millions been allowed to circulate in small sums throughout the hands of the masses? Even the most strenuous advocate of communism must entertain a doubt upon this subject. Most of those who think will probably entertain no doubt whatever. It says no doubt whatever. Okay. Poor and restricted are our opportunities in this life. Narrow our horizon. Our best work most imperfect. But rich men should be thankful for the one inestimable boon they have in their power during their lives to busy themselves in organizing benefactions from which the masses of their fellows will derive lasting advantage and thus dignify their own lives. The highest life is probably to be reached not by such imitation of the life of Christ as Count Tolstoy gives us, but while animated by Christ's Spirit, by recognizing the changed conditions of his age and adopting modes of expressing this spirit to the changed conditions under which we will still be laboring. We live still laboring. He does use a lot of commas.
Right?
All right, continue, my friend.
For the good of our fellows, which has the essence of his life and teaching, but laboring in a different manner. I feel like all of this should be read by Cornel West. He could do such a good job.
Good job, Cornel West. We'll get Cornel West on the show. Continue.
That'd be awesome. This, then, is held to be the duty of man of wealth. First, to set an example of modest, unostentatious living, shunning display of extravagance, to provide moderately for the legitimate wants of those dependent upon him, and after doing so, to consider all surplus revenues which come to him simply in trust or as trust funds, which he is called upon to administer, and strictly bound as a matter of duty to administer in the manner which, in his judgment, is best calculated to produce the most beneficial results for the community.
So he's advocating that if you have a lot of money, you shouldn't just buy everything possible and live this baller lifestyle.
Dang it.
But you should be frugal is what he's saying. That's his take. Continue.
Okay. The man of wealth thus becoming the mere agent and trustee for his poorer brethren, bringing to their service his superior wisdom, experience, and ability to administer, doing for them better than they would or could do for themselves. We are met here with the difficulty of determining what are moderate sums to leave to members of the family. What is modest, unostentatious living? Love using that word. What is the test of extravagance? There must be different standards for different conditions. The answer is that it is as impossible to name exact amounts or actions as it is to define good manners, good taste, or the rules of propriety. But nevertheless, these are verities well known all through and indefinable. Wow. Public sentiment is quick to know and to feel what offends these. So in the case of wealth, the rule in regard to good taste in the dress of men or women applies here. Whatever makes one conspicuous offends the canon. If any family be chiefly known for display, for extravagance in home, table, equipage, for enormous sums of ostentatiously spent in any form upon itself, if these be its chief distinctions, we have no difficulty in estimating its nature or culture. So, likewise, in regarding to the use or abuse of its surplus wealth, or to generous, free-handed cooperation in good public uses, or to unabated efforts to accumulate and hoard to the last, whether they administer or bequeath. The verdict rests with the best and most enlightened public sentiment. The community will surely judge, and its judgment will not often be wrong. The best uses to which surplus wealth can be put have already been indicated. These who would administer wisely must indeed be wise, for one of the serious obstacles to the improvement of our race is indiscriminate charity. It were better for mankind that the millions of the rich were thrown into the sea than so spent as to encourage the slothful, the drunken, the unworthy. Of every $1,000 spent in so-called charity today, it is probably the $950 in unwisely spent, so spent indeed as to produce the very evils which it proposed to mitigate or cure. A well-known writer of philosophical books admitted the other day that he had given $0.25 to a man who approached him as he was coming to visit the house of his friend. He knew nothing of the habits of this beggar, knew not the use that he would make of his money, although he had every reason to suspect that it would be spent improperly. This man professed to be a disciple of Herbert Spencer, yet the $0.25 given that night will probably work more injury than all the money which his thoughtless donor will ever be able to give in true charity will do good.
So he's saying that when you give somebody money, when they don't have to do anything for that money, it's bad for them. He's saying if you just give somebody back in the day $0.25, it's not good for them. That's what he's trying to communicate here. And without any further ado, back to you.
He only gratified his own feelings, saved himself from annoyance, and this was probably one of the most selfish and very worst actions of his life, for in all respect he is most worthy. In bestowing charity, the main consideration should be to help those who will help themselves.
There it is.
To provide part of the means by which those who desire to improve may do so.
I want to make sure we're getting this. Go back there and just go back 2 lines where he was talking. He says, just read go back 2 lines or 3 lines and read that part again.
In bestowing charity?
Yes.
Okay. In bestowing charity, the main consideration should be to help those who will help themselves.
That's what you should be doing with charity, helping people that are willing to help themselves. But just giving money away to people that are lazy is bad for their soul. It kills their pride. Continue, Jason.
To provide part of the means by which those who desire to improve may do so, to give those who desire to use the aids by which they may rise, to assist but rarely or never to do all. Neither the individual nor the race is improved by almsgiving. That's a new word.
Almsgiving.
Yeah.
This just in.
It's a new holiday. Those worthy of assistance, except in race classes, seldom require assistance. The really valuable men of the race never do, except in cases of accidents or sudden change. Everyone has, of course, cases of individuals brought to his own knowledge where temporary assistance can do genuine good, and these he will not overlook. But the amount which can be wisely given by the individual for individuals is necessarily limited by his lack of knowledge of the circumstances connected with each. He is the only true reformer who is as careful and as anxious not to aid the unworthy as he is to aid the worthy, and perhaps even more so, for in almsgiving, more injury is probably done by rewarding vice than by relieving virtue.
There it is. He says you're actually hurting people when you give them free stuff. It's actually bad for people's soul to give them free stuff because it injures their pride.
Right.
Continue, Jason.
The rich man is thus almost restricted to following the examples of Peter Cooper, Enoch Pratt of Baltimore, Mr. Pratt of Brooklyn, Senator Stanford, and others who know that the best means of benefiting the community is to place within its reach the ladders upon which the aspiring can rise. Parks and means of recreation by which men are helped in body and mind, works of art, certain to give pleasure and improve the public taste, and public institutions of various kinds, which will improve the general condition of the people. In this manner, returning their surplus wealth to the mass of their fellows in the forms best calculated to do them lasting good. Thus is the problem of rich and poor to be solved. The laws of accumulation will be left free. The laws of distribution free. Individualism will continue, but the millionaire will be but a trustee for the poor. entrusted for a season with a great part of the increased wealth of the community, but administering it for the community far better than it could or would have done for itself. The best minds will thus have reached a stage in the development of the race which is clearly seen that there is no mode of disposing of surplus wealth creditable to thoughtful and earnest men in those hands it flows, save by using it year by year for the general good. This day already dawns, but a little while, and although without incurring the pity of their fellows, men may die sharers in great businesses or in great business enterprises from which their capital cannot be or has not been withdrawn, and is left chiefly at death for public uses. Yet the man who dies leaving behind many millions of available wealth, which was his to administer during life, will pass away unwept, unhonored, and unsung. No matter to what uses he leaves the dross, which he cannot take for himself. Of such as these, the public verdict will then be, in quotes, the man who dies thus rich dies disgraced. Such, in my opinion, is the true gospel concerning wealth, obedience to which is destined someday to solve the problem of the rich and the poor, and to bring peace on earth among men goodwill.
So let's just summarize what we have learned here. 1, Andrew Carnegie started working at age 13.
True, bobbin
for
boy.
$35 a week as a bobbin boy. He worked his way up over time by working over delivering. The boss eventually promoted him and promoted him and promoted him. He ended up becoming in partnership with the boss, became the world's wealthiest man. He then had accumulated a massive fortune, and he realized that the many people were upset by how much money he had versus how much money they have. He noticed throughout his lifetime there was a class war between the people at the bottom and the top. The people at the bottom wanted what the people at the top had, and many people were advocating for socialism. And so he was pointing out that the world has gotten better as you and I go out there and try to make a dollar. Because as we're competing in the world of commerce for dollars, we have to make a better product. As we're trying to beat the competition, we have to make a better and better product. So he says, hey, capitalism is producing goods at a lower price, at a higher quality and lower price than ever because of capitalism. It's not perfect, but it's the best we have. And he's pointing out that if you are wealthy, it is incumbent upon you to not give your money freely to your kids so they grow up to be entitled jerks. Your goal is to help people who can't help themselves. You want to meet people halfway, not give people handouts, but give people hand-ups. And he's saying that if you die with a large bank account, that is a bad thing. Right. You should try to give it away during your lifetime to help people. Also, he is saying that if you just give money freely to lazy people, that's not good because it hurts their pride, and it's a really bad thing to do. So it's bad to give money just to people who refuse to work. It's bad. It's also bad to try to take it with you when you die. So what you should try to do as you earn wealth is to try to give it back systemically over time in a way that provides people a hand up and not a hand out.
True.
Now, why has this book not been talked about much? Well, the reason why this book isn't talked about a lot today is, one, this book was written many, many years ago. But also, I think a lot of people are just trying to make a buck, and they're not stopping to ponder about how am I going to give it away.
Right.
That's not a thought most people have.
No.
This is a rich man's problem he's trying to solve here. But I'd encourage everybody to pick up a copy of The Gospel of Wealth. It's a very short book, and it was released in June of 1889. And it was a book written by the world's second wealthiest man, who, again, started working full-time, 12 hours a day, to support his family for $1.20 per week, which comes out to $36 a week in today's with today's value of money. And now, without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom. And so, Jason, are you prepared to bring the boom?
Always.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.